Hey guys, how you doing? Welcome to another episode of Teed Up. I'm David.
I'm Justin.
As always, we appreciate you tuning in. I hope everyone's doing well, as well as can be with the current situation going on in the world. You know, uh, Slowly but surely, we're going to get basketball back. We've actually been hearing news from Woj and other sources about the league coming back and where the league's going to be played. I didn't really pay attention to it, but Justin, you were telling me off camera that there was some news about the league coming back. What did you hear?
Yeah, so according to Shams, the NBA has like Orlando, Disney World as kind of their clear front runner to returning play here. That's their favorite option right now. I mean, it's no guarantee that's what ends up happening, but right now the front runner as to how we return is going to be through Orlando and Disney World.
Yeah, I think Orlando's the best option because I think they'd be too distracted with Vegas.
I agree with that.
You know, because if you remember, we talked about this on one of our episodes.
I think it may have been our first episode.
I think it was our
Maybe
first. Yeah,
first or second.
I think it was our first. We were talking about the MGM resorts giving the NBA an offer, and they said that they would open up the spas and the casinos and the restaurants. But if you kind of think about it, the players might get distracted with the casinos. And Justin, you were telling me, which was a good point, that if let's say Nevada opens up the casinos with restrictions, then you're going to have it's just not going to be a smart move.
No, it would cause too many distractions there. There'd be too many things. I mean, we saw what happened to Dennis Rodman when he went into Vegas. So I don't think the NBA wants another situation like that. I think Orlando is a much safer bet. I think less distractions there. Disney World certainly won't be open. They have the resorts right there that all the players can stay at. I think the real issue here is getting all the players on board. I think they have the resource here. It's more of if the players will agree to it.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. But so yeah, like we said, slowly but surely, we're gonna get basketball back. I heard a little bit that the players are able to go back to their cities where their teams are and they can practice and things like that. I think it's in
Things
effect.
are starting to open up.
Yeah, I think that's in effect June 1st, I believe. Uh, so
I think
yeah,
it's maybe different by state depending on when things open up.
yeah, I think it all depends on the city or the state. So
Yeah, where
that
the city's located.
that'll be interesting to see. Um,
Mhm.
I think we will get the NBA season back. I just don't know when, and
Yeah,
nobody really knows when. Nobody even knows when the country's opening back up.
yeah, exactly. If I had to guess, mid, I'd say July, early to mid July. I'd say give it another month.
What, for the NBA
Hopefully,
or for the entire country?
just the NBA.
Uh,
I mean, even with that, there won't be fans, so like they
exactly.
won't even really fully be open. But I think we can get basketball back being played in a month. And well, it would be like a month and a half from now.
Yeah, I'd say about 2 months.
Mid July.
Yeah. So even though there's no NBA basketball, uh, one thing I wear personally a lot since it's getting nicer is NBA jerseys. Absolutely love them, and my favorite place to get them from is the Jersey Guys on Instagram. So they are an NBA jersey reselling company based out of London, UK. They sell amazing vintage, 100% authentic NBA gear. They ship internationally, and you might be thinking, well, I'm not in the UK, so isn't the shipping going to be super expensive? No, actually, they sell a really reasonable shipping rate. So definitely go check them out. They have amazing jerseys from the 90s, 2000s. They're a great company. I've bought some from them personally, and I absolutely love them. So you can check them out on Instagram. That's at the_jersey_guys. So go check them out. Put a link in the description. But one thing we wanted to get into was the future of the league. We've been talking about the future of the league in other episodes. But we wanted to kind of continue that. And one thing that's been on in a lot of people's minds is expansion and what teams, what cities need an NBA team, what teams deserve a city that needs an NBA team. So, Justin, I'm wondering what city rather do you think needs an NBA team?
Okay, well, I got a couple here. First off, I want to say I don't think any city is more deserving than Seattle. I think we need to
Seattle,
bring back the Supersonics. I think
bring
that
them
is
back.
a given. They should definitely be back. I mean, Seattle's a basketball city, and we've seen how well they've done with teams like the Seahawks, even with MLS, they have the Seattle Sounders, and they have one of the best fan bases there. So I think Seattle is more than deserving of a team. Then you got other cities here. I think Pittsburgh's not a bad option. I like them as a smaller city. I really like a city like a Louisville more so. I mean, they're a smaller city, so obviously it's a small market, but it's got no other pro teams to contest with them. So it would be all the city can unite to one team here, really be their one team that rallies the city together. They already have an NBA caliber arena there, so I mean, it's kind of like an OKC situation. It'd be the one team in the city. I think that'd be a really good fit there. And then if I had to bring up one more, I'd say probably Las Vegas. We've seen how well the Golden Knights have done. We'll see how well the Raiders can do there. I heard maybe the A's may be moving there in 2021 or 2022. So
The
there's a chance
Athletics,
of
like
that.
the
Yeah, the
MLB.
Oakland
Wow,
Athletics. So they may be moving there too.
I
So
didn't
I
know
could
that.
definitely, depending on how things do, I could definitely see if there's an opportunity to make money there, good money there, I could definitely see the NBA looking into that.
Yeah, I agree with I think Pittsburgh especially, they do have some passionate fans. Justin and
Mhm.
I are from Philly, but you know, sometimes we do travel to Pittsburgh because the Phillies can play the Pirates or the Eagles. The Eagles this year are playing the
Steelers
Steelers,
in
so I'm
Pittsburgh,
definitely going to go out to Pittsburgh. And
if
as much,
there's fans.
yeah, if there's I think we'll have an NFL season, but
Hopefully.
that's what you guys talk about, you and Jake, on your All
Hmm.
Sports podcast. What's that?
Boiled up, boiled up
Boiled Up.
podcast.
Go check
Definitely
them
give it a
out.
listen if you like any other sport outside basketball.
Yep. And we'll put a link in the description for that, even though I don't appreciate them trying to make competition with this one. And you stole the word up from us, but I'm going to get it. Yeah. So I agree with Seattle.
Hmm.
There's no question. But just bring back the Sonics. You know what the
Please.
you know what the funny thing is too?
Hmm.
Seattle does have a WNBA team,
Hmm.
and that when
They do.
they're one of the WNBA teams that are losing money.
Hmm. Yeah, that's an interesting thing.
So there is basketball in Seattle, but nobody cares.
Hmm.
It's hilarious, honestly. I agree with you, Pittsburgh. I was going to say Baltimore. I think Baltimore has some really good fans with the Orioles and the Ravens. I think they definitely there's definitely a market in Baltimore for an NBA team.
There could be. The only thing I kind of don't like about Baltimore is DC really struggles getting their fans there, and you know how close DC is to Baltimore, so I'm
I
not sure
don't
how great.
honestly.
It's pretty
2 hours.
close. So I mean, it's pretty close there. So it's probably like about an hour or two. It depends where in DC, but it's debatable. I mean, it could succeed there, may not. I don't know. That's a tough one. I have a question for you. How would you feel about an expansion team in London? The
No,
NFL is trying to go over there. How would you
no,
feel? They have the games over there all the time. How would you feel about that?
I don't like that at all.
You know, like it.
No, no, I really
I
don't.
mean, I don't know how it would work, but like,
Because
it's just an interesting topic discussion when you look at it. When teams like the NFL, like the Jacksonville Jaguars, talk about moving there permanently, and you have games there a lot. You have the NBA travel series where they go over to London. I
yeah,
don't know
and
how the travel would work, but like the travel and time would be different because they certainly have a fan base over there. I mean, people in Europe, UK, over there in London, they love the NBA, so they certainly love basketball. But
right.
I'm not sure how they could get it to work out where they could have an NBA team over there.
Well,
But
yeah,
it's
I
just an
mean,
interesting topic.
I don't know if I really like that. Just because it is called the NBA, the National Basketball Association. And
Hmm.
I know you had the Vancouver Grizzlies, you have the Raptors today in Toronto, but I they're close
It's
to
different
the
when it's
United
on a
States.
different
Yeah,
continent.
yeah, it's on a whole different continent, and I don't think that it'll work either because with the contracts too. If you think about like getting a contract, you have to do like a conversion rate from U.S. dollars to pounds. So
Hmm.
that's another thing you have to look at, and you know a, a lot of players in the NBA are from the United States.
Hmm.
So they're going to be far away from their families.
Yeah, it'd certainly be tough to do. But I think it's an interesting topic when you look at it, and there's always the possibility that I mean, there's certainly the market over there, and
Hmm.
there's certainly a lot of money to make off of it. but I just don't see it being realistic.
I don't see it being realistic either. I agree with you.
Yeah, just wanted to
So
get your thoughts on that.
yeah, we wanted to know, we want to know your thoughts. If you're from a city that doesn't have an NBA team, does your city deserve an NBA team? Why? Or what city do you think deserves an NBA team? We
Mhm,
want to know. Comment on our Instagram. It's at teed_up podcast underscore. We'll put the link in the description. I definitely butchered
mhm,
that, but still, comment below on YouTube. Let us know. Let us know what you think.
mhm, definitely.
But we wanted to get into the unfortunate news about The Last Dance being over,
It's finally over,
and
unfortunately.
I am very upset
Mhm,
because that was the only thing getting me through quarantine.
yep, definitely was.
So now that it's over, I'm officially going to lose my mind. Um, and excuse me, one of the things that we wanted to talk about was, just obviously MJ being so successful, MJ being, super dominant in the 90s, dominating arguably, a lot of people say the 90s is the uh, best decade of basketball. I disagree personally. I think it's the mid 2000s by far, but that's a whole other discussion. But I'm wondering, Justin, what are your thoughts on how MJ would do today in the late 2010s and the early 2020s?
Um, that's an interesting topic. I mean, he was certainly able to dominate the 90s for sure. And like you said, many people consider the 90s the greatest era of basketball ever. So I don't necessarily agree with that, but people consider it that. So, I mean, that obviously is a huge plus on Jordan there. So I think when it comes to today's game, he'd be a lot like, I think he's a lot like a Kawhi James Harden mix. He's got that mix of talent where it's like he can score at will like James Harden can. He has everything on the offensive end. And his defense, he's arguably one of the best defenders. He can lock him down, and Kawhi has that Mamba mentality. So I think he'd be kind of like a mix of those two players in today's game.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you look at it, I think he'd be able to score realistically 40 to 45 points per game. I mean, he was able to score 35 through 38 in his career there. I think what he scored 38 points per game was his career high his
I
first season.
believe something like
It was
that.
it was around there. So if he was able to do that in the 90s, I think today's era doesn't have as much there's no hand checking. There's just it's not as physical, and a guy like MJ would be all up in your face constantly. He'd be trash talking. A lot of today's guys are very soft, and I think MJ could definitely get in their heads.
Well, one thing about that is it's hard to trash talk now. Like because the refs always want
Yes,
to
they
tee you
do.
up. The league is soft today. There's no denying that.
Hmm.
So I
So
think
Jordan may struggle with that, but I think that gives him there's aspects to that that would make him struggle. But I think overall he'd be able to dominate it to the point he would be averaging 40 to 45 points per game. He'd be like a James Harden today on steroids, basically,
yeah,
if you were to look at today's
without
game.
without the stat padding and the traveling. But we're done.
Sure.
We're done debating James Harden.
Mhm.
Touchy subject. A thing with that is too. If MJ gets teed up and he says, "Well, I'm going to take this personally," every time MJ says, "I took it personally," shit hits the
He
fan.
takes it personally.
Excuse my language, but he takes it very personally. He takes a lot of stuff
Hmm.
personally, which is one thing I respect, and that just fuels him, and that just you know he fights fire with fire when he
Hmm.
takes things personally. I think I agree. I don't know if he would do 45 points a game. I think that's a little ridiculous.
That'd be crazy if he could.
I think that's a little ridiculous. Obviously, he would drop 45 points occasionally. I think he would even drop towards 70 in one game probably sometime in his
Hmm.
career today. But here's the thing. I don't think he'd be better than LeBron today. You can
He would
argue
be.
if who's better, Jordan or LeBron. But if MJ was playing today, I think it's still the Kings league.
No, it would not be because LeBron is he's a good all-around player in today's game, but he's not the dominator that MJ can be. MJ can just flip that switch and he's out there and he's dominating the game. I don't think LeBron has that, and I think that's what would give MJ the edge over LeBron in today's league. I think MJ would just score at will in today's league. I think there's really nothing he wouldn't there's no Jordan rule. That would be these guys would be teed up on that. They would be out of the game. It'd be a flagrant.
Flagrant
They'd be out
three.
there. there's none of that. So I think Jordan would get to the rim at will, and if everybody sags off him, he'd pull up and hit that mid-range jumper, and I think he'd be able to develop a three-point shot to fit in today's game
That
as well.
that's another thing I wanted to get into. MJ wasn't that much of a 3-point shooter.
He
I mean,
was towards the end of his
yeah,
career,
I mean,
but
if
not in the beginning.
yeah, you had the shrug game and you had all that, but
Hmm.
he's got to be able to shoot, 6 threes a game, which he never did in his career. Obviously, it's a different game, but LeBron has developed a jump shot as he got older, and
Hmm.
obviously he slowed down a little bit because he is 35 years old, but he's
Yeah.
adapted to today's game, and I think
Hmm.
LeBron will adapt better than MJ.
I think MJ would take it personally. I think he'd be in the gym grinding, and he would develop a three-point shot without a doubt. He would have that down so fast. Take him one. It wouldn't even take him one off season. He'd already have that three-point jump shot down. He'd be. I mean, it's the mid-range jumper to the three-point shot isn't that much of a difference, especially when he shot that
Yeah,
mid-range jumper at. I mean, he's arguably one of the best mid-range jump shot shooters of all time. So I think from him to transition from mid-range to three, he wouldn't struggle too much with that. I think that'd be pretty easy. It'd be a pretty easy jump for him. And I think with his determination and will to get something, when he puts his mind on something, he gets it done. There's really no stopping him. So if he really wants to, he would have gotten it easy.
okay, let's say Jordan gets drafted in 2009. Let's say 2008, and
Hmm.
he's how many rings do you think he gets from 2008 to up
Mm.
until this year?
See, that's tough because when he came in with the Bulls were arguably one of the worst franchises in NBA history at the time. They were pretty pathetic there.
They're
So
pretty
I think
pathetic today too.
they're pretty pathetic today. So are you saying he'd be on the Bulls here?
Well, yeah, let's say let's scratch 2008. Let's say 20. Let's say like 2016, or
He
let's say
was in
20. Let's say 2015. Let's go like he's 5 years into the league, or
I
2015 to
think he
2020.
he would have been. It's tough to say because you don't know who his teammates are, and it's a tough situation. I think he certainly would have won at least. He would have taken down the Warriors at least once by playing them, no matter who his teammates were. Because LeBron, he would have taken it after he lost to them once. If he did lose to them, he would have taken it personally to the
We're
point
taking
where
it personally.
he would have taken it personally that he lost, and he would have been in that gym grinding nonstop to the point where he would have won. He would have been that good. He would have gotten himself to a point where he was that good that he would have been able to take them down. It's tough because like is he is he playing with Scottie Pitt? Like there's a lot of deciding factors that would go into that. I mean, he would certainly win rings in today's game. He alone would be good enough to take a team to the finals without a doubt
No,
in today's game.
I agree, and that's a tough thing, and that's one reason why I kind of don't like these what if questions, and
It's
these
all
are always
hypothetical.
it's all hypothetical. Like we you just don't know.
Mm,
You just don't know. Like I remember we were talking off air about how LeBron would do in the '90s. Who knows? It's not going
hmm
to happen. Who
You
knows?
don't know. You never know.
And that's kind of why I think there's no real goat in the NBA history. Like I think there's a goat of each decade.
I
So
agree with that.
the 2010s LeBron, 2000s
Hmm.
Kobe, 90s
Hmm.
Jordan, 80s Magic Johnson or Larry
Yeah,
Bird.
there's different answers you could give for in there, but I agree with you. You should break it up by era, not by because the game
The
evolves so
game
much.
changes so much. Exactly. Yeah.
It's a totally different game. So would you're taking different stats from different players, and they were playing against different levels of competition compared to it's just a different game. Like there's a 3-point shot. Like teams like the Houston Rockets, there was no team like that would take 73s in a game compared to like that just didn't doesn't happen
Just
anymore.
doesn't. Yeah.
Like
It doesn't.
nobody takes that many threes back then compared to what teams take now. Like it's a totally different ball game.
Well, even like 5 years ago, there wasn't that many threes. Before the Golden State
Hmm.
dynasty, a 3-point shot wasn't essential.
Hmm.
So
And the analytics are coming into play here with all these new
analytics,
stats and everything.
advanced stats are getting more and more
Mhm.
popular. So
It's so different now than it was back then that it's just like it's totally mind blowing. Like we said, with all this advanced stats, I think Jordan would have realized now how important the 3-point shot is when he looks at the numbers. Because when you look at the numbers, taking a 3-pointer over a mid range jumper is a no brainer. Because when you look
absolutely.
at the numbers, even though I mean, for him, he made it at such a high rate that it actually worked out. But like the amount of points you get based off of the 3 point shot, getting one more point for it, if you make it, the difference there just in stats. I mean, it's a whole different game when you look at it. People are looking at deep numbers here. It's totally different. They didn't have that technology, well, ability to look at numbers like that back then. So it's just totally different.
Hmm. And even with all this hypotheticalness, again, we want to know what you think. Comment below,
Mhm.
comment on our Instagram, comment on our YouTube, DM us, do whatever. Let us know what you think. We want to know your thoughts. So, one thing that we wanted to go back to this season, we wanted to talk about, some things of this season. We wanted to discuss who is a very surprising team. So, Justin, I'm wondering who surprised you this season? What team stood out to you and
There were a
just
couple.
absolutely exceeded their
There were
expectations?
there were a couple here. I mean, I think if I have to give it to a team, and I hate doing this, but I got to give it to the Miami Heat because I was one of those people that was really trash talking Jimmy when he left.
Hmm.
I was like, why did he leave Philly to go to a team that's not even gonna make the playoffs? Because I honestly didn't think Miami had that great of a roster. But they had some surprising players there. I mean, nobody saw Bam coming like this. They got Kendrick Nunn, Tyler
Tyler Hero,
Hero.
yeah.
I mean, they just have had players come out of almost nowhere with like Kendrick Nunn. I mean, nobody would have guessed him. They just surprised. I mean, I personally, I'm gonna eat my words here, but I back when Jimmy left, I said the Heat are gonna be like an 8 seed at best, and I regret saying that because they are what 3 seed right now, I believe, four
Three
seed,
fours.
four seed, I think.
At one time, at one point, they were second.
They were up there at second at one point. So that's pretty impressive in my opinion, at least. I mean, I know Miami Heat fans always thought they had a good roster once they got Jimmy, but I mean, I just never saw it until this year. I mean,
I,
I really underestimated Eric Spoelstra and Pat Riley down there in Miami.
yeah, I thought that they were going to be like a 6, 7 seed, maybe a first round exit. I did not expect them to be an
Hmm.
East powerhouse and a team that you have to like watch out for.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm kind of over, being upset with Jimmy Butler as a Sixers fan because it wasn't his fault. It wasn't his fault. He's not the one that broke up the locker room. But we'll talk about the Sixers a little because we're going to talk about disappointing teams, and the Sixers are obviously going to come up. But for me, the biggest surprise for me was OKC.
Hmm.
I had a hot take, when the season started. I thought they were good enough to be an AC. They exceeded my expectations, and I think everyone's expectations. It became a 5th seed in the stacked West. And in the first week, in multiple sources had them ranked around 20th in the power rankings. And they just absolutely shocked the world, shocked the entire league. I got to give it to Chris Paul and company over at OKC. Very, very happy with how they did.
No, I agree with that. I really like what they did in OKC. I mean, I think part of the reason was nobody expected them to keep Chris Paul. Nobody expected them to keep
Mm-hmm.
Gallinari. Nobody expected them to keep all these players. I mean, people knew about and Steven Adams. People expected them to trade him. People knew they were going to keep SGA, but the rest of them, people kind of expected them to be a bottom dweller and they'd ship them all off for draft picks. But they didn't. They kept them all, and they really did a good job forming a good team here. They all kind of know their roles. They kind of have their fits. They know what they need to do, and they've been executing. So I give props to them.
And I think Chris Paul is a great mentor for these young guys on OKC,
Mm,
especially for SGA.
definitely.
I think having Chris Paul be a mentor for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is phenomenal. I think that's great for
Hmm.
his career because he's just going to
Hmm.
take off with, because he's getting mentored by one of the greatest point guards of all time. So
And he has Dennis Schroeder there too,
Dennis
who's a
Schroeder too
very
as
good
well.
player.
So with that, what team disappointed you the most?
If I have to give a disappointing team, it has to be the Portland Trailblazers. I mean, you come in here. I mean, clearly they lost Nurkic. I mean, he's a big guy. I mean, first off, injuries have played a big part in why they've disappointed so far. I mean, Damian Lillard has played lights out this year. He's been fantastic, but when you look at it, he's been hurt. I mean, CJ's been solid, but he's shot pretty bad this year. I mean, he's still putting up 20 points, but he's just not doing good. He's 31% of his 3 pointers through spurts here. He just wasn't shooting well. He started off the year very slow and really never got hot. Hassan Whiteside does not clear. He doesn't fit their offense. He clearly doesn't fit. It's not even close. I mean, Zach Collins got hurt. it's been a mix of injuries, bad luck, just a little bit of everything here, and it's brought them down. I mean, I expected them to be a 5 through 8
Hmm.
seed, somewhere in the mid to bottom pack of the Western Conference, and they are not even close to that. They're not even in playoff contention. So I was very disappointed with them.
Yeah, no, I was actually like very upset that they were struggling as they were because Damian Lillard is me personally, he's one of my favorite players.
He's one of
So
mine too.
yeah, so for him to not strive in Portland is it's just sad to see. But they weren't as disappointing, and I might be a little biased, but I don't think I'm that biased when I say that this is the most disappointing team in the NBA.
You are.
My Philadelphia 76ers. They were so disappointing. Justin, let me tell you something. Do you know where they were at the power rankings in week 1 of the NBA? They were ranked higher than LA, higher than
Because people
LeBron's Lakers,
overrated
but
them,
they were higher than LeBron's Lakers,
but they were just overrated.
and they're struggling to be a 5th or 6th seed. Many sources projected them to come out of the East, be the first place in the East. They're not even close to that. And part of it
Nobody
isn't.
had them. Nobody had them first in the East.
Yes, they did.
Giannis's Bucks were
we did.
first in the East after last year. There was no.
We were either going to be. We were either going to be
We were going
first.
to be 2 or 3. We were going to be 2.
No,
or
we were going to
3
be 1 or 2.
No,
We were going to be 1 or 2. People were saying
that was your expectations, not the league's expectation. They may be the most disappointing to you, but if you were the rest of the league, nobody had the Sixers as the best team in the East. Nobody outside.
But they were a powerhouse in the East. They were ranked higher than the Lakers.
Yeah, by some writer at ESPN. That doesn't mean
no, not by ESPN. By multiple sources, they had them ranked higher than the Lakers. I looked at a bunch of sources. I looked at a bunch of websites. That I went back and looked at the power rankings, and week 1 they thought the Sixers were around 4th or 5th.
If they were so disappointing, is that why they have the best home record in the NBA?
Yeah, but look at their road record. They suck on the road. They won 2 games on the road.
Maybe if Elton Brand built a better roster, they'd have a better chance.
No, I agree. Part of it is Elton Brand not making the right moves. Some of it has.
That's 100% the reason.
Some of it has to do with Brett Brown.
No, none of it.
Some of it has to do with Simmons and Embiid being injured, which is not, that's nobody's fault. Injuries happen. And nobody expected Al Horford to be that terrible. He just doesn't fit. Why would you put Al Horford at the 4 when he plays the 5 all the time? He played the 5 in Boston, played the 5 in Atlanta.
Because that's what Elton Brand thought he could do. Elton Brand thought he could be a power forward. But if you look at this was Elton Brand's problem. He should have looked at the numbers. Al Horford's never played a minute at power forward in his career up until
I agree.
So why would you sign him to be your number 4? That's all on Elton Brand. This team was built to fail. Nobody looked at the numbers like that when you look behind the numbers. So this team was just built to fail. They're not disappointing. If you actually looked at them and realized they were not a good team. They were never a good team.
Look at them on paper. If you looked at them on paper, Ben Simmons, Josh Richardson, Tobias Harris, Al Horford, Joel Embiid, that sounds like a pretty good roster. I wouldn't put Al Horford at the 4. I think that's just absolutely stupid. And signing him for $100 million, $100 million. Are you kidding me? That's disgusting.
So stupid. But it's not disappointing. They've still had a productive season. They're still in the playoff hunt. They may have disappointed.
But they might not even make it out of the first round. They're projected to go to at least the Eastern Conference Finals, and they're not going to do that. That may
be your perspective on it, but that's not how the rest of the league views it.
No, that's how the rest of the league probably thinks it. They're not going to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, but how much they struggle.
Eastern Conference. They weren't projected to be that. They weren't projected to be the number 1 seed in the East. The only person that had them as the number 1 seed in the East was you, and that's biased.
I had him as I told you I had him as the 1st or 2nd, and so a lot of other people had him as the 1st or 2nd.
They were 2nd or 3rd. No, they were 2nd and 3rd at best, and they fell a couple spots behind. That does not make them more disappointing than a team like Portland or a team. There's tons of teams out there in the West. I mean, it didn't make them so disappointing because they missed your expectations.
But we're also no. It's not just my expectations though. A lot of other people thought that they were going to go to at least the Eastern Conference Finals, and I don't think they will. They won't. They will not because Brett Brown is a terrible coach. Elton Brand didn't want to sign a backup center.
He did sign a backup center. That was last year where I told you that they didn't sign a backup center, and that's why they lost last year. And it was not Brett Brown's fault. Brett Brown coached that team to 7 games against the world champions last year. How can you complain about that?
What about this year? They're playing terrible. Why would you have Al Horford as your 4 in the lineup? That's not Elton Brand. Elton Brand doesn't decide the lineup.
Because Elton Brand paid him $108 million. What's he supposed to do? $108 million?
Yeah, and I agree. I agree. That is the root cause for Al
It's
Horford
El
being
it's
for being
it's
terrible.
Elton Brand's
I
fault.
I
But
agree.
the up
I
above, it's the front office. They made the
I
mistake by
I
signing a
agree.
player like
Signing him
that and
for
not
$100
giving
million
shooters.
dollars was not a good move. But
You
then
lost
you
all your
have Brett
shooters
Brown
too.
have him but then you have Brett
Who traded
Brown,
away Landry Shamet?
but then you for Tobias
Who traded
Harris,
away? Who didn't let JJ Redick come back? Who didn't sign Jimmy Butler back? They
JJ
let
Redick
all
was asking
they
for way too much money.
he didn't ask for way too much money. The New Orleans Pelicans offered him that much money. He got a good offer from the
Well, he
Sixers.
said he was
Pelicans
going to
just
stay in
offered him
Philly for
more.
the rest of his career, and he didn't do that. So it's that's nobody's
And we
fault.
had
That's
Shamet.
but
We had
JJ's
Shamet to be the
Redick's.
next JJ Redick, who was a fantastic shooter. I love the kid. He's great. I mean, we had him. Elton Brand traded him away for Tobias Harris, and honestly, Shamet's a better fit for this team than Tobias Harris. I mean, the Sixers don't need another star. They need three good 3-and-D shooters along with Ben and Joel, and that's good enough for the Sixers team. The Sixers team has their 2 stars. Build a team like Giannis's Bucks. Giannis doesn't have a good a true star next to him. He has Chris Middleton, very good player, not a superstar. You have two guys, Ben and Joel. Those two guys with 3 shooters. Give me Buddy Hield at shooting guard. Give me a Robert Covington type player at small forward, and then
I don't want Rocco
and then a
back.
four split four. Give me a floor spacer at the power forward, and right there you open the court for Ben Simmons. You can feed Joel the ball. And the problem is Sixers fans out here think they need to go get Devin Booker, buddy, and Bradley Beal. That's just so stupid.
I
You don't
agree.
need a guy taking 30 shots a game on this team.
I
You
agree.
need Ben. Ben and Joel are good enough to do it on their own. You can get a third player like a Tobias Harris or a Jimmy Butler that can help them close it out, like Jimmy did last year. But you don't need trading for Tobias Harris and giving up all that. They gave up all their picks, future picks. They gave up Landry Shamet, their young promising player. And then in the draft, they
To be
drafted
fair,
Matisse Thybulle, who can't shoot. You draft a guy that can't shoot with your draft pick. Now, I think he's a great player and he can become a very good player. But you're in a win now mode. That's what you did last year. You traded away all your picks to win now, and then you draft a guy who's not ready to play now. He's not developed. Like the front office has screwed this team up so much. It all started when they let go of Hinkie. That was the worst move they could have
right.
made.
What I was gonna say too is, signing Tobias Harris for all that money, $150 million, and he doesn't play like a max contract player. I get that.
That's not even the problem. They don't necessarily need the money. Yes, they gave him a lot of money, but and a third player like that's not bad. But if you give me JJ Redick at the 2, and then give me a Rocco playing the 4, or Tobias playing the 4, and Rocco at the 3, that lineup right there is gonna give me top 3 in the East at least.
But no,
They
no,
didn't give him shooters. I mean,
but
look at the Bucks. The
I
Bucks don't have
agree.
the good players around them. You have to build the team correctly. The Bucks don't have the best roster in the league, certainly don't. But they built their team correctly. They gave Giannis the ball, and they let the team spread the floor out so there's nobody else in the paint in there. And if the Sixers did that, they'd actually be having a successful season. But the
Now,
problem was they were built to fail. Yes, they've been disappointing to everybody's expectations, but realistically, they were a 2-3 seed. They're a 6 seed. They dropped 3 spots. Look at a team like Portland, who had potential to be a 5-6 seed in the West and dropped all the way out of the playoff picture. They're 10 games, 5, 7, 5, 10 games. I don't know at the top of my head, but they are way significantly lower than what they were expected to be. There's a lot of teams like that. And a team like Atlanta is another one that we talked about. They were disappointing. I think
I thought Atlanta was disappointing.
there's just teams out there that are way more disappointing. Obviously, they disappointed your expectations as a Sixers fan.
I know, and like
I
I said,
do not think they were
it might be a little bit of bias because I am a Sixers fan, but still,
they didn't disappoint. They weren't the most disappointing in the league.
but to be a second or third seed and not and not prosper like that and have a road record where you only win 2 games on the road is just disgusting. And I think part of that, I obviously the root cause is Elton Brand. I'm agreeing with you. I 100% agree. Elton Brand did not make the right moves, and he made some pretty terrible moves. But another thing is Brett Brown. When you watch Brett Brown, he doesn't know how to take over a game. He doesn't know how to close out a game. And I think Brett Brown has.
Does.
I think Brett
He's
Brown.
shown it in time so far this year in
Yeah,
games.
but he's
Done it,
inconsistent.
and time because he doesn't have
inconsistent.
the right players. Elton Brand set him up to fail. That's the problem with the Sixers. They didn't build. They built this roster so horribly. It's so terrible. I mean, if you give Brett Brown a team like the Bucks are still having the success they have because they were built correctly. Elton Brand's a fine coach. I mean, Brett Brown is a fine coach. He's not a great coach, but he's not a bad coach.
But we can get a better coach.
No, you cannot.
Yes, you can. We can find a better coach. We can find a better coach.
Find a better. Name one.
David Blatt.
He's not. He was LeBron carried him. He
David
is not
Blatt.
a good coach. He is not a good coach. You're saying that because you're a LeBron
He's
fanboy.
doing well
And
overseas.
no,
David Fizdale.
no,
David
no,
Fizdale would be
no,
tremendous for this squad. He's
no, he would
fired up.
not.
He's fiery. I love David Fizdale, and I think he would be
Don't even.
excellent here.
No, no, no.
Excellent. He would be
We're getting,
excellent.
we're getting,
He would be
we're
excellent
getting
in
so
Southfield.
off topic. That would be terrible fit.
All right.
We're so off topic here, but no.
You know, the reason that we went on this huge rant about the Sixers, we're huge Sixers fans, and it just sucks that we're not exceeding our expectations. I do agree with you on Atlanta. I really thought Atlanta could fight to be at least an eighth seed with
Yeah,
Trae Young, John Collins, Clint Capella. Well,
yeah,
they didn't get Clint
they
Capella
got
till
him halfway
yeah.
through. John Collins got the suspension, and that sent them down. I'd say another disappointing team was Phoenix. I thought Phoenix was going to be a decent team this year.
Yeah.
With Ayton Booker, but then Ayton's suspension really hurt them out there too. So the suspensions really killed those two teams.
Guys, stop taking PEDs, all right?
It's not needed.
Just
It's not
stop.
needed at all.
Just stop. Thare not good for you, and they just, you know, what do you, you're not going to get away with it. You're not going to get away with it. Just stop.
Yeah,
Ridiculous.
There's no point to it.
Ridiculous. So, our last topic for today, I was kind of talking about this. This is a little controversial. I think this will get a little controversial. Some people will not like this if you're a fan of the team that I'm going to discuss. But we wanted to talk about the worst NBA city. What is the worst basketball town in the league? And I'm wondering, Justin, what are your thoughts about this? Who do you think is the worst NBA city?
Honestly, this one was a pretty easy one for me. I mean, just looking at it, I have to say the Detroit Pistons. They have one of the worst fan bases in the NBA.
Really?
I mean, they are second lowest in home attendance at 15,438 average per game, average fans. And just think about it. So they're not getting fans. They haven't been successful in a while. They brought in big names like a Blake Griffin. They couldn't do anything with that. The fans still weren't showing up. They've been terrible. And I mean, look at what happens when they did have fans. You got the brawls, the bomb threats, throwing coins at players. Like, even when they do have fans, their fans are terrible. They're not good fans. So when you look at it, in my opinion, it's pretty obvious. They don't have fans. And when they do show up, their fans are terrible. They threw coins at Sixers guard Allen Iverson. I don't know if you remember that. They did that. They had the bomb threats, the Palace, the Mallet. Like, they just had... They had so
You got to
much.
admit, though, the mouse at the Palace was pretty sick. Like,
it was.
I watched
like,
that at least once a month.
The mouse at the Palace was very good, but when you look at it, like, that's not good for the NBA. You know how much money that lost them? Like,
no, yeah, it was a terrible look for the NBA, but at the same time, like
as a fan, you like it, but like, clearly that's bad on why it's not good.
It's not
a
good
look on Detroit. It's not good on Detroit. No, not at all. And the bomb threats that they've had, like, it's just a bad situation in Detroit. Not good at all.
Well, to be fair, Ron Artest did start that, and he was a pacer.
Okay.
But the retaliation from Detroit, obviously. But
yes, yes.
Yeah, if we had that today, that would be awesome. I would love another mouse at the Palace. Somebody get that.
That would be great.
I would love that. Absolutely.
Oh, 100%. But absolutely. I mean, that's not a good look for the NBA.
Not at all. But no, honestly, I think it is. I think it gets more viewership having fights like that. I think it does.
I don't think it does, but it's good for the fans like it, but overall it's not good. I mean, it's not a good look on the NBA when things like that happen.
I don't know. Me personally, I love a good brawl in sports. Yeah,
fans do, but like outsiders looking in, it's not a good look as someone trying to bring a kid to a game or something, like having stuff like that. That's not a good look. It's a good way to lose money quick in the NBA if that consistently happens.
No, I mean, yeah, you know, if you have like a little kid at the game, but like most of the time, you know,
for somebody our age, yes, but for somebody,
but for like a 6-year-old
bringing a kid,
yeah,
that's a different situation. But if you're a 18 through 30 through 28-year-old, if you're in that range, you probably love it. But outside of that, the other ages will hate it.
Now, I remember last year, like I was at the Sixers and Bucks game. It was when the season was wrapping up, and I think Bledsoe and Simmons got into a fight. That was awesome. When you actually witness a fight, like in person, there's nothing like it. I'm serious, man. Like that's what
hockey's for.
That's why I like going. That's why I started watching hockey. Like I started watching a bunch of Flyers games just because the fights are cool.
I agree with that. Who's your worst fans?
My pick. This was a no-brainer, honestly. Brooklyn is the worst NBA city. Brooklyn is a terrible NBA city. Frankly, they shouldn't even have a team. All right, look. Here's the thing. I did a semester of college in New York, and I've been to a couple Nets games. The Nets games they're terrible. It's like this grim feeling because everything's just gray and dark. It's not fun. The announcer sucks. The announcer has no enthusiasm. It's just good. And here's the thing too. Most people from Brooklyn, you know, were fans of the Knicks because at the time the Nets were in New Jersey. So really, most Net fans were coming out of Jersey. So basically, all the New Yorkers are Knicks fans. So they're already, have all this time attached to the Knicks. So I think, Brooklyn shouldn't even really have a team. It was just because Jay-Z has money and he just said, hey, I'm going to buy an NBA team and put it in my hometown. And the attendance is terrible. Like I said, I've been to the games. They're boring. And the attendance is terrible there. And they have Kyrie and KD.
They're 24th in attendance in home games.
They're 24th, exactly. And you have KD and Kyrie.
Yeah, but they're not playing. Kyrie missed
the whole year, to be in the same,
didn't play at all.
But still, it's still something, to be in New York City, which is, as a team to be in New York City, that's amazing.
But why are you going to pay premium price in New York City to go see a team when you can save your money this year and go spend it next year on the games when you're going to see KD and Kyrie? You're not going to see them play, so why would you go spend money unless you're a season ticket holder? Like, what's the point?
But even then, the Nets are still in the playoffs. The Nets are consistently good.
They're consistently average. They're nothing good.
They're consistently a playoff team.
Like, no, here's the problem. The New York fans aren't. I don't know how to word this. They're okay. They're kind of fair weather. They're not diehards. A lot of them, like most of the diehards there are Knicks fans. So they're all the ones that have been there. So they're constantly showing up to the Knicks games. All the Nets fans really join them because of the KD and Kyrie. A lot of them are, not all of them are bandwagoners, but there are a good chunk of their fan base right now that is bandwagoners for KD and Kyrie. So when they didn't play this year, they're not going to go spend their money to see them. That's one of the reasons I think they have a low attendance. I think compared to.
But that kind of proves my point a little bit too. For the
I agree with that. I'm not disagreeing with you on the fact. I think they are a disappointing team, but I think their fans aren't the problem. I think the problem is the players aren't playing. I think if the players show up, I think they'd have a loyal fan base. But the fact that the players aren't playing is one of the main reasons. Like, I think it's a disadvantage.
No, but seriously, like, the Nets just don't have that many fans. I'm serious. They just don't have fans. Because
they have all their fans in Jersey. They just don't show up to the game. All their fans are still in Jersey.
Why would you want to commute from Jersey to Brooklyn just to watch the Nets?
It's like the LA Chargers. I mean, they have fans. Just nobody goes to their games because they're not traveling from San Diego to LA.
Exactly, yeah. I will say this, though. At the Barclays Center, I had one of the best burgers I've ever had.
Really?
So Barclays Center.
I've never been, so I can't deny or agree with your statements. But
it's a nice arena. I mean, I've been to MSG, and obviously MSG is amazing. I think that's kind of a bucket list item. Go to MSG.
Mm-hmm.
But Barclays Center, it's just okay. Just okay. It's all right.
I don't think NBA arenas. See, baseball is different. Like baseball, like for me, I want to go see every stadium. Like that's a bucket list thing because every stadium is unique and different.
And historic too.
And historic basketball stadiums, they're not. They're kind of all the same. I think they're all. Like there's the few that you do want to go to, like Staples Center, MSG, like things like that. But like outside of that, there's not too many that like I don't care about going over to. Who is it? I don't know.
Like DC. Like you don't want to go to like American Airlines.
I don't care to go see DC, Phoenix, Memphis.
I've been to DC's arena. I forget Capital One Arena. It's terrible.
Yeah, I've been there too. It's not that nice. So like things like that. Like I don't really. There's nothing special that attracts me to NBA arenas. Whereas like baseball is a little different. So like I think that's another reason just in there. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree. And a lot of times, like with teams historic, championship runs and things like that. You have the Palace. The Palace isn't there anymore. It's not even in Detroit anymore.
Yep.
You have the Spectrum where the Sixers played, with Dr. J and Moses Malone. That's not there anymore. It's the Wells Fargo Center. I mean, the Wells Fargo Center is still amazing. And if you're in Philly,
Sixers still have the best attendance in the NBA.
Sixers have the best attendance in the league. Let's just get that out there.
Represented.
Go Sixers.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so yeah, my pick is Brooklyn, and yeah, that's it. So
Mhm.
I think, again, let us know. Who do you think is the worst NBA city? We want to get your thoughts. Let us know.
Mhm.
Try the burgers at Barclays Center, definitely.
Mm.
I'm
If I ever
serious,
go,
dude.
I will.
Seriously, dude. They're really good. I
Love
don't,
a
I
good
don't,
burger.
I don't even care about the game. I just cared about the burgers, man. Burgers are really good. But all right, guys, that's going to wrap up this episode of Teed Up. We appreciate
Mhm.
you listening. Appreciate you tuning in. If you're on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure to follow us on Spotify and Anchor. And check out the jersey, guys. Put the link in the description for that. Thank you, guys. Goodbye.